This is Dave from the Adobe Character Animator team, and today I'm incredibly excited to announce that we have officially added body tracking to Adobe Character Animator as part of our Adobe Max 2021 release. This is something that's been in beta for a while. You guys have given us a lot of great feedback, and now it is finally out for everyone to be able to try. If you haven't tried it yet, body tracking is an awesome new way to do your performance capture animation. So instead of fiddling around with keyframes or the dragger tool or something like that, you can just act and talk naturally and have it translate into an animated performance. Whether that's just you moving your arms to accentuate certain parts, or doing a full body character dance to bring your puppet to life. So this is a major topic, and we're breaking up this video into 3 different parts. So we'll start off with performance basics, how to set up your camera, how far back you want to stand, lighting conditions, all of that stuff. Then we'll move into recording and editing. How do you record a take with body tracking? And if you make a mistake, like let's say you want to re-record part of your arms or something like that, how would you go about doing that? And then finally, we'll end up, for those of you who want to add body tracking to your own custom characters, we'll go through the rigging process. First, how to add it to a torso up character in the arms, moving on to a full body character. There's a lot to pack in here, so let's get started. So if you want to try out body tracking, the best way to get started is on the home screen. We have 11 example characters that are rigged for body tracking. So that includes Chloe, Hopscotch the Frog, Sam, Stardust, Al, Tull the Cat, Bongo the Gorilla, Footy, Ninja, Thorn, and Heather. All of these characters have body tracking enabled, so you can click on any of them and test out the feature yourself. And if that's not enough, there are even more characters on our official body tracker website. This has all these videos and more information about body tracking. So if you're interested in learning more, that's a great place to go as well. But for the purposes of demoing today, I'm going to focus on 2 characters. For a torso up character, I'm going to focus over here on Tull the Cat. And for a full body character, I'm going to go to Hopscotch the Frog. So let's get started with Tull the Cat. All right, so I've opened up my character Tull the Cat here, and I'm starting to wave my arms around and nothing's happening. Well, that's because body tracker is something you got to turn on and off by default. Body tracking takes up a lot of processing power, and if we left it on all the time, you'd probably run into a few performance issues. So our recommendation is turn it on when you need it and turn it off when it's not needed, and that might help you optimize things a little bit. So check out the camera and microphone panel up here. You see I've got my normal webcam icon and microphone icon, and added to that now is the body tracker icon. So as soon as I click this body tracker icon on, turn it blue, you'll notice that I start to get things on my shoulders showing up here. Now, this is only going to work if the character actually has a body behavior down here that is active. So check out what happens if I turn this off, if I disarm the body behavior, and now I try it, I'm gonna get a warning message that says, hey, body tracking requires a puppet with an armed, active, and enabled body behavior. So that's just a safeguard for you to, if a character isn't rigged for body tracking and you try to turn it on and then you see nothing's happening, hopefully that message will come up and inform you what the issue is. Okay, so for a torso up character like Tull the Cat here, I'm gonna turn my body tracking on, and then as I move my hands around, he's gonna start doing some stuff. But it doesn't look that great right now. It looks like, I don't have my full hand movement, and that's because I'm too close to the webcam. So you're probably used to animating sitting down close to the computer like this, sitting down. But for best results with body tracking, you're gonna have to stand up. You need full arm movement, full body movement. And so take that chair, put it away, stand back a little bit. Oh, my chair almost fell down there. Stand back a little bit, and this is how you want to do it. Now, right now, my character's not looking that great, right? His head is kind of stretched up. Something's not working right. And that's because I haven't calibrated the character yet. So what I'm going to do is, see this little calibrate button? This used to be called set rest pose. We changed it to calibrate now. What I'm going to do is click this and then stand back. It does about a 5-second countdown to give you time to get back and step back a little bit. And then I'm going to stand and put my hands like this, kind of in an A position, like they're diagonal to the side here. And that's going to properly calibrate my character. So let's go ahead and give that a try. I'm clicking calibrate. I'm taking a step back, putting my arms out. And now you'll see my character looks properly calibrated. And now when I move my hands around like this, my character is going to be doing the same thing. Move my head back and forth, all of that stuff. All right, so that's the basic prep for setting up for body tracking. Make sure that you are standing up and that you have calibrated your character. The second thing is to make sure you have enough room for your arms to move around. So this doesn't mean, they don't have to go all the way up and all the way down. It's okay if they cut off a little bit, but in general, you want to have enough movement, enough space so your arms are moving and not getting cut off by the camera. This is going to look a lot worse if I was closer to the camera like this and moving my arms, and then suddenly, they're going off the screen. They're not in the best position. So what you might want to do if you're serious about this stuff is, whoops, that's a terrible angle. Let's try that again. See, you got to keep adjusting and trying it. Really, every setup is going to be slightly different, and you just have to test around and see what works best for you. I have put tape on the ground for what I feel is like the optimal distance of where I should stand, and that's a great place to know, okay, here's where I'm going to go when I do my calibration, or here's where I'm going to stand for all of this stuff. It just helps you out. So experiment with your space. I know some of us have smaller office spaces to work from. Some have, people behind us that we've got to, tell to move out of the way. So you might want to play around with your space and see what works best for you. So that's how you do a torso up character. How would you do a full body character now, like Hopscotch the Frog? Well, basically, you want to give yourself enough space that you can get your full body in the frame of your camera. So I know when I step back here that I've got my camera set up in such a way that I can see my whole body. My feet aren't cut off. My head isn't cut off. I've got full maneuverability so I can move around and dance and do whatever crazy stuff I want. So you might have to move some furniture out of the way. I should probably get rid of that plant, but that's the basic way to set it up. So I'm going to try this. So let's turn on the body tracker icon. I'm going to go ahead and click calibrate. I'm going to take several steps back. I'm going to put my arms in an A position, and my character is now going to be calibrated. And now my character is not just moving the arms like in the torso position, but they're also going to be moving the legs. So now I can do a little dance like this, hop back and forth, and go over here, and my character is going to do the same. So that's it. You just have to make sure you have enough room that you're not going to knock into anything, and you should be good to go. Now, if you find yourself having a hard time running back in those 5 seconds and getting in position, don't worry, we do have some additional options. So go to timeline, and all the way at the bottom, there's this body tracker countdown, and you can change the default from 5 seconds to 10 seconds or 20 seconds to give yourself a little bit of extra time if you need it. Now you have a few additional parameters that you can fool around with to help fine-tune your body tracking and how your character reacts. The first of those under the body behavior is if tracking lost, and you've got hold in place or return to rest here. Hold in place is the default, and what this means is if I'm going crazy and moving my arms around and then one of it goes off of the camera, what happens to that hand? Well, in this case, it's going to hold in its last tracked known place. So you see, as I'm moving, my hand is going to be where it was last tracked, and then as soon as it comes back in, it's going to remember and do the tracking again until it goes back out. So it's just kind of a safety thing. Now, your other option would be return to rest. This character's default hand position is out like that. The arms are like that. So in this case, if the tracking was lost, look what happens instead. The arm is going to go back to that outstretched position instead because that's what happened. And then as soon as it tracks again, it's going to go back. So it's two minor but interesting ways to deal with limbs going out of frame and what Character Animator will do to try to fix that. If you have return to rest set up, you do have return duration gets illuminated, and this shows how quick or how slow that return to rest is going to be. So here I've got my hands tracked. I'm now going to put my hand out of the camera. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It goes back to its rest position, and then it'll start tracking again. So that just gives you a little more control over that. The strength parameter is not one I would worry too much about. That's basically how much of an influence body tracking has versus the default position. So if I change this to 75 instead of the default 100, well, now my movements aren't going to be as one-to-one. It's going to have about 75% strength on the arms. And so you can try this, but I feel like you just don't get the same mobility as 100%. So personally, I've only kept this at 100%. So finally, we come to what I think is the most important part of the body behavior, and that is the tracked handle section. Anything that is checked here means it will be tracked by your character. So you might be surprised to know that all that body tracking for Tull the Cat was only 3 things being tracked, and that's my 2 wrists, my left and right wrist, as well as my head movements. Now, I could add in the shoulders and elbows and stuff like that, and that's going to give me a little bit of extra fidelity. So let me stand back here. Let's calibrate the character, try this out. And now not only is it going to try to track just the wrists and the head, but also my elbow movements. And I also get a little bit of shoulder shrug, which you can't see that well with this character because he's got such a big head, but you get the basic idea. You have some additional things that you can track. But, honestly, sometimes just the wrist and the head, that's enough. And most of our example characters are set up that way, the torso characters, where it's only a few things. So it's really going to depend on the character. So if you're not seeing the full results or things aren't tracking properly, maybe add a few more of those checks and see if adding the shoulder tracking or elbow tracking helps with things. Or if you're running into, it feels just too one-to-one and you want it to be a little bit more scaled back, try reducing the number of check marks. For each character and each environment, it's going to be a different thing. So this is a trial and error experimentation type of thing to see what works best for you and your puppet. Now, at the time of this recording, there are also a limited number of characters that have body turning in addition to the body tracking. So you notice with the head turner behavior that we had in here for a while, as I turn my head, the character is going to turn its head with me. Well, the Stardust the Unicorn is also enabled with body turning. So the camera is going to recognize when I turn, and the artist here has provided different artwork layers to show each body turn position. So again, this only shows up in a few characters right now, but this is something that you can take advantage of as well. Sometimes your body tracking may not be working as expected, and if that's the case, here are the top 5 things that I would check to help you out. Number 1 is not having enough space in the camera. So if you are not properly framed and things are popping off, your head's getting out of the frame, your hands are getting out of the frame, that's just going to create a lot of issues, and Character Animator isn't going to be able to keep up, and it's not going to be able to track you because it can't find the different parts. So again, it probably always makes the best sense to just take a few more steps back than you think you will need, so you have enough movement, enough area around you to get correct positioning. Number 2 is the contrast between you and your background and lighting. Lighting is huge. If you are in a dark room, right now I have a window in front of me and a light over here turned on. That's going to help immensely. So the camera is going to be able to pick up all my different features as I move around. If it's darker, the camera's going to struggle a little bit to do the tracking and find out where's your hand, where are your hips, where's all that stuff. It becomes more difficult. So the more well lit you can be, typically the better results you're going to get. Secondly, is you want to make sure you have enough contrast between yourself and the background behind you. So if you're wearing an all red shirt and your background is red, you're going to blend in. It's not going to work as well. It's going to have a hard time doing the tracking. So the more contrast you can have between yourself and the background, probably the better results you're going to have. Number 3 is fighting with other behaviors. So Character Animator has a bunch of ways to control your character, and sometimes those behaviors don't work well together. That includes for here, especially the dragger behavior. So check out, usually in the past, we've told you, you drag your hands to move them around. But if I drag my hands and then I try to do body tracking, look what's happening. The hands are not reacting all the way like they should be because they're also bringing in the dragger data that I just did as well. So these two behaviors are fighting. The dragger saying, hey, I want to move the hands with the mouse, and body tracker saying, hey, I want to move the hands around with body tracking, and it leads to bad results. So my recommendation is if you are doing body tracking, you should turn the dragger behavior off, disarm it, or completely get rid of it. And then you want to refresh your scene with the refresh button down here, and that's going to give you a nice clean version of your scene to move around with and get rid of any dragging that you've done previously to make sure you get the full body tracking. Number 4 is knowing your puppet's limits and what they can and can't do. This character is more of a 3/4 style character. He's kind of facing to the side. So that means arm movements like this are going to look good, whereas if I did my arms like this, that doesn't look as good as this character. So you want to make sure you know how your character works and think about their different motions and what's possible. So for this character, I might, make gestures like this. I might scratch the back of my head. I might do an outstretched gesture like this. I might pretend to clap my hands like this. All of those gestures are going to look pretty good. In general, I found that more big, deliberate motions tend to work better. So if I just move my hands around like this and I'm doing all this sort of stuff, that cannot look that great most of the time. Instead, what you want to do, and this is, like most 2D animation, is mostly one pose to one pose. So I do these big deliberate steps, big actions and motions that I'm doing, and then I'll move to another one, and then I'll do this. And this just tends to look a lot better to me than just moving your hands and limbs all over the place, unless you're doing dance moves and then you can kind of, do whatever you want. But in general, particularly for arm motions, this sort of pose to pose big interaction is going to work a lot better. And finally, play around with the limb IK behavior. So if you're playing around with your character and you notice the arms and the elbows aren't quite bending in the way that you want them to, you can tweak this with the limb IK behavior. Every character with body tracking should also have limb IK behavior as part of it. We'll get into that in the rigging section. Don't worry about it right now. But all you really need to know is under limb IK, there's this elbow flip threshold. If I play around with this, I'm going to change at what position the elbows bend one way or the other. So notice now, when I'm moving my arms, the elbows are starting to bend upwards much sooner than they did before. So now they're starting to bend like as soon as they go, almost not vertical anymore, like this. And that's very different from the default, where if I turn this off, if I X that out, now they're kind of, they start like this, but then they go in, and I can do like my hands on my hips, for example. So you have a lot of options, what works best for you and what kind of expressiveness you want your character. So test with your range of motions. Practice, say, all right, I'm gonna do my hands like this, and I'm gonna do this big motion like this. And if the elbows aren't quite working in the way you want them to, play around with that flip threshold, and that should help out quite a lot. All right, so for the rest of this video, I'm going to be really focused on these free example file characters that I've put together for you. Very simple setups, and so there's 4 of them. There is this frontal facing torso up character, a 3/4 view facing character, a full body front facing character, and a 3/4 view full body character as well. These are probably the most lightweight and simple examples of body tracking. And so if you're on an older machine and some of these newer puppets with a lot of triggers and stuff are running slow, these characters might be your best bet for something that works pretty fluidly and fast. In addition, there's a worksheet that goes through this, a PDF that talks a little bit more about the rigging process. We're going to get into that a little later in the video, but this whole package is available on the body tracking website, and you can download these free characters, do whatever you want with them, edit them, put extra stuff on top of them, or use them to learn how to make your own creations. All right, so you've got a body track character, and now you want to start recording something. You think everything seems to be working well, and you're ready to go. Well, as long as your body behavior is armed and the body icon is turned on, you're ready to record. Just make sure at the top front of your timeline and go ahead and click that red record button. So let's go ahead and do like a little dance here. Something like this. Just something ridiculous and goofy. Just having a good time. All right, something like that. All right, so that recorded some data in my timeline. Let's play back, take a look. And yeah, there's my little dance moves, and it's looking as good as my lack of dance skills will allow. But there you go, it's all recorded here in the timeline. So let's take a closer look at the timeline, what's happening here. I see that I've got my eye gaze, my face, but then I also have body, and I have 3 tracks that were recorded here. I've got my head, my left wrist, and my right wrist. Why were these the 3 that were recorded? Well, that's because they were the 3 that were checked over here as being tracked in the body behavior. So you can think of it this way. Anything that is checked over here is what's going to show up as recorded data. So if I also had the shoulders checked, the hips checked, all that stuff, I would just have more lines. And that just makes it a little bit easier to do some editing, so you don't have to do a whole performance over again. If this was just one body track, and you just messed up with one arm movement that went crazy, it would be pretty bad to have to go and re-record everything. Luckily, you can kind of isolate individual elements and then fine-tune your performance with a few additional recordings. So let's do a fix as an example. Let's say as I'm dancing, I like this first part, that's great, but then I start to get these flappy arms and it's just not looking great. I wish my left arm was just kind of holding out and doing something different. So what I'm going to do is put it right where that starts to begin. And what I'm going to do is I only want to record really my left hand moving around, or my left wrist for this character. So what I'm going to do is uncheck the right wrist and the head, Because I already have data for those. I don't want to record more data for them to overwrite it. All I want to do is work on my left wrist performance. Okay, so now with body tracking turned on, you'll see what's happening. Only this arm, this wrist is being tracked right now. This one is not. Now the face is still moving and the eyes are still moving because I have all those on. Probably for a fix like this, I'm gonna want to turn all that stuff off. So I'm just gonna hold down Command and click on the red dots to turn everything off, and then turn on body just so that's the only one that's recording. And now this is the only movement that I'm going to do. So let's say instead of the flappiness, I'm just gonna keep my arm like raised and kind of do a raise the roof type thing here. So let's go ahead, click record. And I'll just do this general movement like this. And that's good. All right, so what did that do? That recorded a new take over top of my existing take for the left wrist. So it's very choppy here where it switches. Of course, I've got blend handles. I can just click and drag these blend handles to blend one performance into the next. And then it should seamlessly kind of transition from one arm position to the next. Now, I'm not seeing the rest of the arm movement happening, and that's because I've unchecked the additional handles that I recorded. So to view handles, to view the tracking and to record it, you need to have things checked. So if I check these things back on, now when I play it back, I should see the whole thing as it was originally supposed to be. And there you go. I would not call that much of an improvement, but it's hopefully proving the point of the flexibility of what's going on here. So I'm showing a torso character here, but a full body character, you could do the exact same thing. Let's say you're dancing and suddenly one leg, kind of goes crazy or off, or you really want to accentuate a certain part of the animation. So this is the way that I do any professional type recording. If I'm just goofing around and I'm just dancing and having a good time or doing a live stream or something like that, I don't care about that stuff. I'm just going to press record, have everything on and go. But if I'm trying to really, work on particular timing and getting things looking as good as possible, I'm going to go this route. I'm going to record one pass that's as best as I can do with the body tracking, and then layer on these small fixes and parts to help bring it to life. Another quick tip, another reason you probably want to record your body separately from face and eye gaze is you're going to get more accurate face tracking data when you're closer to the camera, right? So here I'm getting my eyebrow movements and my pupil movements, and all that's looking great. Now that changes a little bit when I start to move back. Let's just calibrate. So now it's doing a pretty good job. I'm a little bit further back, but my face is a fraction of the size that it was before. And so the camera's going to have a slightly harder time picking up all the nuances of my eyebrows and my pupils and stuff like that. At this range though, it's pretty good. It's okay, you could get by. But if I go all the way back here and move back to the back, if I was doing like a full body character or something like that, well, now I'm moving my pupils around to my eyebrows and it's doing a little bit of it. It's doing a pretty good job, but it's not going to be as accurate as if I was right up next to the camera and getting all that tracking data. So just a quick tip, if you're not getting accurate results for eyebrows, pupils, that sort of thing, do that face and eye gaze take separately and you should get much better results. So example characters are fun to play around with and all, but if you're an illustrator or artist and you really want to make your own characters and add body tracking, there's a little bit of extra rigging that you have to do. And so this next section is going to go into that. So we're going to use those example files that I talked about earlier, free link at the video description below and at the bottom of the screen here. And make sure you download those and you can follow along with me and we can rig some of these characters together. So if you've opened up the CH project file that's included in there, you'll see a bunch of different things. And the puppets and scenes, these are the ones that are completely rigged and ready to go. But you notice there's a section called unrigged here. And this includes a bunch of versions that I just imported. These were all made in Adobe Illustrator. I just imported the Illustrator files, didn't do any rigging whatsoever to them, just added them to a scene. And so I'm going to walk step by step now how to add body tracking to each of these characters. So let's start with this one, the example front torso. It's the second one listed here. This is just a simple straight on character that should be really easy to set up. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on the puppet example front torso, and that's going to take me into rig mode. All right, I'm going to do my basic things that I do with almost every puppet when I first bring it in. I'm going to select the body, and using the fixed tool down here, the little pin tool, I'm going to select this and make a few pinpoints to keep the body fixed to the ground. That's what I want for this particular character. I wouldn't want to do that if I had legs, but because it's a torso character, I want the torso to kind of stay fixed down there. Second, I'm going to select the head, and I'm going to drag the head origin here to the neck because our heads pivot from our neck. They don't pivot from our nose. So that's just going to look slightly better. Third, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to do this. I don't like it when the dragger fights with the body tracking. So I'm going to go over, select my top level puppet group here. I'm going to go over to dragger, click the menu icon next to it, and say remove behavior. That way I won't be tempted to accidentally drag and have that behavior competing with my body tracking data. But we're not done with behaviors yet. Now that I'm here, I actually want to add 2 additional behaviors to my character. And that is by clicking the plus button here, I'm going to add the body behavior, and I'm also going to add the limb IK behavior. These two go hand in hand. You should always see body and limb IK together. So make sure you've added both of those. With that out of the way, now I can get into tagging the different parts of my character. So really what the body behavior for a torso up character, I'm really caring about my arms and tagging them. So let's go ahead to my left arm. By default, the origin is here in the middle. I want to drag that and move it to where it would connect to the body, in this case, the shoulder right here. And something like that looks good. Now my arm is going to rotate from the shoulder instead of the elbow, and that's going to look a lot better. Then I'll go down here to the handle tool. I'll click that, and I will add a handle right here for the elbow. And I'm going to go ahead and tag that as the left elbow. And then I'm going to go down here and put right around where the hand would be and tag that as the left wrist. Then I will use the stick tool down here, this little bracket looking thing. And I'm going to click and drag where I think the bones would be. So I'll click and drag here and let go, leave some room for the elbow, and click and drag here like that. Okay, that's making the left arm look pretty good. Now we're not going to tag the shoulder here. We're actually going to tag the shoulder on the body. That's just going to work better overall and lead to less issues with the body tracking setup. So let's leave that for now. Let's move on to the right arm and do the exact same thing. Okay, and I'm going to click and drag to get the origin of the right arm up here. Then I'm going to go back to my handle tool. I'm going to click here for the elbow, tag that as the right elbow, and down here, tag this as the right wrist. Then again, I'll go to my stick tool, click and drag, make a stick there, leave a little room for the elbow, click and drag, and there we go. All right, now that that's done, let's select the body group, and you'll see where these green dots are. That is where my attachment points are, and that's a great guide for me to put my shoulder tags. So let's go back to the handle tool here, and I'm going to put it right over top of this, my right arm, and I'm going to tag that as the right shoulder. And then I'm going to go over the left one and tag that as the left shoulder. And now they are going to be well connected to the rest of the body, and it will help with any shoulder tracking I want to do. The final part we want to tag of a torso up character is the neck. Now, in the past, we have told you in the head, you also want to tag this as a neck for best results. With body tracking, that's actually not the case. What we find gets the best results is if you go to your body group, zoom in a little bit, and you're going to want to put it between the two shoulder blades. That's going to give you the best shoulder shrugging ability and just give you better neck stretching if this character had a neck, which he really doesn't. But you're going to get better results overall over a wider variety of puppets. So I'm going to go ahead in the middle of these two shoulder blades, put a handle there, and I'm going to tag that as the neck. And now my puppet is in pretty good shape. All right, so since this is my example front torso character, let's find the corresponding scene for it. And I'm gonna go click on this one right here. And there we go. So now I come in and the body tracking is working as expected. So as I move my hands around, as I move my head, my character is going to be doing the same. Now I probably wanna tweak a few things. For example, the character's looking a little small, so I'll probably scale it up a little bit, move it down, position Y, so its torso is off like that. The face, as you see, is scaling in and out and looking pretty weird. So I probably want to change head scale strength to 0, something like that. So yeah, I like how this is looking overall. I can, of course, dig into the body behavior and do a little bit more tweaking if I wanted to. If I want to track additional things like my elbows or shoulders or neck, I can do that. But by default, it's just doing the head and the wrists. And honestly, that's looking pretty good to me. So I'm pretty happy with how this is looking so far. Now, depending on how your arms are connected to your character, you may want some different attach styles. So see, when I start to bend my arm here, see how it's kind of bunching up there in the shoulder? You can get some weird bends there depending on your attach style. Right now, I have this character set to a weld attach style, but let's go back to rig mode. And now if I select my arm and instead of weld, change this to hinge, and let's do that for both the left arm and the right arm. And now I'm not going to get any of that bunching happening anymore. It's more like it's pivoting like a propeller blade or something like that, moving back and forth. In general, I found that hinge, at least for the types of characters I make, works a little bit better for the body tracking, but test it out. Your mileage may vary depending on what type of puppet style you've got going on. So that's the basics of rigging a torso up character. Let's move over to a full body character and see what that might look like. So I'm going to go to the front body character here, and I'm going to just double click on the scene first to see how it's looking in general. And it's a little big for the scene, so let's bring the scale down slightly here in the transform behavior. Something like that looks pretty good. But again, this is a completely unrigged puppet. I haven't added any rigging information. So I'm going to go into my example front body here, double click that. All right, so let's do some of the same things that I did before. I'm not gonna add fixed handles to the body because I don't want the feet to be pinned to the ground. I wanna be able to move them, but I am gonna take my head and drag that origin down to the neck so it pivots from there. I'm also gonna select my top level puppet here. I'm going to remove the dragger behavior like that, and I'm going to click plus and go to body and also limb IK. So both of those are added now. Next up, let's move to rigging. So I'm going to go through everything just like before. So let's start with the left arm. I'm going to drag the origin here to the shoulder. I'm going to put an elbow here, tag it, and a left wrist here, and tag it, and go ahead and add those sticks like that. That's looking good. Let's move on to the right arm. I will again take the origin, put it around the shoulder area, do a handle here, tag it as a right elbow, another handle here, and tag it as a right wrist, and the exact same sticks treatment as I did with the other one. All right, let's move to the body now, just so I can add my shoulders and my neck. So I'm gonna actually add the neck first right here in between, and I'm gonna do that for the neck. Then I'm going to go here over this green dot where I know the left arm is connected and do left shoulder there. I'm going to do the right one here as well. While I'm at it, I'm going to shift select both of these arms and change these from the weld attach style to the hinge attach style, which should work slightly better. All right, so at this point, we've done everything the exact same as the torso up character, but now we have the legs to worry about. So let's move on to them. Let's take the left leg here, and just like the arm, I'm gonna drag the origin so it connects to the body right here. And now I'm gonna start adding my additional handles. So I'm gonna do one for the knee here, tag that as a knee. Ankles are not actually tracked by the body tracker, so you can just ignore ankles for now. Instead, almost directly under the knee, I'm gonna go here and do my heel, and tag this one as a heel. So I'm skipping the ankle. I'm just moving to the heel. And then I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I get a little bit of extra room. And I'm going to select add my last handle and tag that as the toe. Then I'll use my stick and put a stick here for the foot, a stick up for the heel and the knee, and a stick between the knee and the hip, which we will be tagging on the body group, just like we did with the shoulders. So very similar setup to the arms, just extended to the legs. Let's do the same thing here with the right leg. Again, I am dragging the origin of the right leg up here. I'm gonna add my knee and tag that as a right knee. Skip the ankle, move down to the heel directly under it, tag that as a heel, and then tag this last one by the toe as the right toe. And finally, I will add these sticks for where the foot is, where the bottom part of the leg is. That looks a little off. Let's try that again. Slight variations will have an effect on your movement. So if you see your knees bending in weird ways that you wouldn't expect, try changing the placement of where your knees are versus your heel, versus your toe, versus your hip, and you might see pretty dramatic changes. So it is something you can kind of play around with and tweak to get everything just right. Okay, so remember what we did with the top part of the body where we have the shoulders and the neck between? We're gonna do the same exact thing with the hips and the waist down below. So I'm gonna start here. Where the neck was, basically right in the middle here. I'm going to tag this as my waist. And then I'm going to move here to where the left leg connects and tag that, add a handle there and tag that as my left hip. And finally, I'm going to tag this last one, put a handle there and tag it as my right hip. All right, so I think this character is looking pretty good. Let's go check it out in record mode. So again, I'm doing example front body. So let's double click on the example front body scene here in the unrigged folder. All right, so when I come into my scene, I can see my character is already starting to do some movement, but I need to do a little bit of extra tracking. By default, the body behavior here is only going to track your head and your two wrists. That's what it gives you by default. But since we have full body, we actually want to do a few more. So I'm going to tag 3 more things. First, I'm going to tag the heels, the right heel and the left heel, because those are going to track my feet basically. And then I also want to have something in the middle to track. So I found that the waist is the best thing to track there. Now you can also track the knees, the hips, other things if you want to, but this to me has been a really great combo that is kind of the bare minimum that gets great body tracking without having to have so many tracks in your timeline for recording. So play around with it, see what works best for your character. For me, this is looking pretty good. So let's go back like this and I'll do some calibration here, click calibrate. Take several steps back, get my whole body into the frame. And there we go. Now, not only am I doing the hand tracking, but I'm also doing the foot tracking as well. So I can do crazy dances like this, back and forth, and my character is going to do the same. So pretty easy, right? Just basic tagging of a character, just like you've had to do with walk or limb IK in the past. But now you're just adding the body behavior and tracking a few additional handles, and works pretty great. One last thing for full body characters, I would highly recommend going into your limb IK behavior and turning off initial foot pinning. Sometimes body tracking can fight with that initial foot pinning. That basically is keeping your feet stuck to the ground when your character first starts off. And you may want to have a little bit more movement of your feet. And I find that sometimes those two fight with each other. So just as a precaution, I would recommend checking it off. Try it out and see what works best for you. So depending on what type of character you're creating, I would just go through the different puppets here and use these as a guide, as an example. So if I have a front-facing full body character, this is the way I want to go. Front-facing torso character, this is the way I want to go. Now, I didn't get into the quarter examples, but they're very similar to the front versions. The only difference is they have a slight tilt to them. And typically a 3/4 character is going to be a little bit more versatile in terms of being able to, face other characters or feel like they're facing the screen. So typically I've been making a lot more 3/4 style characters. And just the thing to think about here is, which limbs are going to go in front of which other parts. So for example, for this one, I have the left arm actually in front of the head and everything else because I want that to kind of go in front of everything. So when I move my left arm up, it's going to go in front of my face. So I can pretend like I'm, scratching my nose or rubbing my chin or something like that. Then I move into the head, and then the body, I have them layered a very specific way. I have my left leg kind of in the front here. I have my pants and torso behind that. And then the other leg, the right leg, is behind all that. So it's going to look like it's behind. It's really selling that effect of this 3/4 view. And then finally, I have the arm behind all that because if I have my arm go down, I don't want it to look like it's in front of this leg. I want to look like it's behind. So just think about how your character's set up and how you want these different limbs and parts to happen. Now, for the front-facing character, I had the arms here, left arm and right arm, but there's no reason you couldn't, again, have these above the head group if you wanted these to show up in front of your head. Similarly, if you want them to show up behind, I could drag them to show up behind my shirt and all of that as well. So really think about the placement and the full mobility of what you want your character to be able to do. Now, for those of you that are interested in the body turning as well, this is going to be a little bit more advanced, but it is going to give your character a lot of additional flexibility. So the main working example we're showing here for this is Stardust the Unicorn, available on the homepage. And if you look at his body group here, he has 3 things inside of it: a frontal view, a left quarter view, and a right quarter view. And inside each of these is its own collection of arms and legs and all of that stuff. So what they did is here on the body group, you'll see that a behavior has been added, and that behavior is the head and body turner. This used to be just called the head turner behavior, but now we've also added body. And I think by default, it's set to head rotation. You would want to select this as body rotation if you do indeed have it on the body group and want to move between them. And then you'll see your different tagged views here. So I know here, I see a 1 next to it, so I know quarter, frontal, and the right quarter. These are all going to look. Now I could also add profile views if I wanted to as well. I would not recommend doing upward and downward. I don't even think that works, but so you could have up to 5 different turn views for your character if you wanted it. And then you would just, the character is going to switch between those as you turn your body in the webcam. So it's a lot of additional rigging work for sure. You've got to make all these different views, but it does lead to some pretty cool results for your character. It's also up to you how much of your character turns with these. So with this character, you know, his feet kind of stay stationary, planted to the ground, and the torso is the main part that's moving as opposed to the feet moving at the same time. And that kind of gives it a better, more grounded look. Personally, I think that's going to work best for your character instead of their feet kind of floating all over the place. But again, you can play around with it and see what works best for you. And now we're going to get really nerdy and advanced. So you can completely skip over this part if you don't want to get too deep in the weeds. But one last thing is I've told you so far, you don't want to have the dragger behavior and the body behavior together at the same time because they can fight with each other. But check out Hopscotch the Frog. He actually has this awesome jump trigger where he does have body tracking enabled if I turned it on. But if I press X, he'll go jumping off the screen like that. And that would completely fight with the body tracker because look, it's all, if you look in the timeline, it's a really complicated setup of all these different draggers of all his different limbs, being moved around and pulled in different ways. That would look terrible with the body tracker on usually. But there's a trick to this. The very first thing that's recorded here is body strength. And if you remember earlier on, I told you with the body behavior, there's this strength parameter that you probably shouldn't touch at all, but here's the exception. What you could do is set a strength keyframe for 0%, bring it over here and say, okay, I want to add an extra keyframe here. And now I can select these, right click them, and let's create a take from keyframes. I can press Command B to blend them. Let's get rid of this old take, and I can even get rid of the keyframes. And now you'll see what's happening is the body tracker behavior is basically going to 0 strength. So it's saying, don't do body tracking anymore and let this other stuff take over. That's how you get around body tracking and mixing it with pre-made animations that you can do with the dragger. If you followed over all of that, congratulations. You're a character animator expert and pro. I just wanted to throw it out there because there's a lot of little tricks like this out there that you can play around with. And I'm never going to be able to cover everything in this video, but the body tracker can be the start of a lot of really cool things. So play around with it and combine it with other triggers, behaviors, and things, and see what you can come up with. All right, that's it. That is body tracking. We are so excited to see what everyone creates with this. So please use #CharacterAnimator when sharing your creations on social media so we can check them out. And if you run into any problems with rigging your own characters or any of the calibration setup or recording, editing, anything like that, the best place to get help is the official Character Animator forums. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching and have fun.